So I'm going to share some information from our latest annual survey. So we run a survey each year where we talk to previous visitors of the centre and ask them a variety of questions to get a really good snapshot of who are these people that are doing these self-build projects, why are they doing it, how have they found the experience. And we had 759 people respond to what was a fairly long survey to complete, so we're really pleased with that, and I think it gives some weight to this data that I'm about to share with you. So, typical people doing a self-build, who are they? Well, age demographic, 55 to 64. So over a third of people answering the survey are in that bracket. And Jenny will be able to testify as well as the other exhibitors that are based in the centre that is very much our average. And actually, almost 3/4 of our visitors were 55 plus. We would like to see that demographic come down, but you can see only 1/10 of people are under the age of 45. And there are probably a number of reasons as to why it tends to be people in those older groups that are undertaking self-builds, and I think some of the answers that I'll share with you shortly will explain that. We've got a mix of people who are generally either working, largely working full-time, or retired or semi-retired. So 4 in 10 of people are in that retiree category, which obviously matches the age profile. And 7 out of 10 people are building a new home, with the others extending or renovating an existing property. Of those completing a new build, almost half of those are planning to build a brand new home from scratch on an empty plot, and 21% told us they were planning to demolish an old property and replace it with a modern home. And the people that responded to the survey, there was a real spread in terms of where they were with their projects. So 29% were at the very early researching stages, 38% had actually started their project and they'd either secure planning permission or beyond, so they were actually on site constructing their homes, which is great. And just under 7% had completed their build, so they were answering the survey kind of looking back on their projects that they had just recently finished. In terms of budgets, and I'm going to touch on budgets a bit more shortly, the sweet spot, the typical budget for land and build was between 350 and 500,000. And I think sometimes if people have their only experience of self-build is watching grand designs, perhaps they might assume that your budget for a self-build project needs to be far greater than we are finding the average budget is. But grand designs obviously focus on the kind of the names in the title, really, the clues in the title, those huge projects. But most people that we meet at the centre are building something that we would recognise as a typical family home. It just happens to be very energy efficient, really well designed. In terms of your options for constructing the home, timber is the most popular choice, and it has been for the 3 years that we've run this survey. So you can see there, 24% of people were planning to build a timber frame, and that's what we would describe as traditional stick-built timber frame, where the majority of the timber is erected and put together on site. Very close behind is the prefabricated structural insulated panels, SIP panels at 23%, and then that's followed by traditional brick and block, traditional masonry, and then ICF, the insulated concrete formwork, which are those blocks that are stuck together with concrete then poured in to create that superstructure. 17% had, they were too early, they were in those research stages and they hadn't come to a decision. So what are the top 3 motivations? Well, it comes as no surprise really to us, because these have stayed the same for a long time, and previous surveys that we'd run in past years have told us the same really. So number 1 is to achieve a higher quality than a standard new build, a new build that's built by some of the larger home builders in the UK. Number 2, to create something that's more sustainable and environmentally friendly. And number 3, to create a home that's built to your exact specifications. And they are the 3 key reasons why people want to undertake a self-build in the first place. And I think it's quite interesting that there is a clear lack of or perception of lack of quality of houses that are built in the UK by the larger house builders. And this survey is quite damning, really, that over 90% of people that we surveyed would not want to buy a new build home. They'd rather either not move at all from their existing property or buy an existing second-hand home, if you like, and perhaps renovate it and extend it. So that is quite telling, and I don't think it will be much of a surprise to anyone viewing this session today. And it is great to see that sustainability is so high on people's agendas. So 91% of people said they budgeted for higher levels of insulation. And at the centre, and I know that Jenny and the team at AC Architects do this very often, we talk about the principle of fabric first. So make sure you invest as much of your budget as you can in the superstructure, the fabric of the building. Make sure it's got as much insulation, it's as airtight as possible, because then you are effectively designing out your energy consumption. And then of the most sustainable items that people have budgeted for below insulation, it is micro renewables, so solar PV to generate your own electricity, obviously. Heat pumps, we just had a heat pump surgery running at the centre on Saturday, and we had 126 people in. It was great for the first Saturday of the year, all wanting to understand whether either an air source or a ground source heat pump was right for their property or their design, and if not, what do they need to do to improve the insulation levels of their property to enable them to use a heat pump.